What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday, which I'm not used to saying, not because it's Monday. I don't have a problem with Mondays, but I usually do this show on Saturdays, so I usually am used to saying that. But it is Monday, and we're here. So my name is Justin, aka No Good Comics, and welcome to the channel. I'm really excited because this particular show is based on my comic collector origins show that you might be familiar with, that I do every Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. But this is a little bit of a different edition. This is a creators edition. So that is why you see the word creators in the title. I am really excited because I am going to be having on my first writer for that has written a comic book. So before I get into those details, please first take a moment, smash that thumbs button. Appreciate the likes. And if you're new here, welcome. I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hit that little bell notification so you can be notified of all the live streams and other videos that I put out from time to time. Like I said, this is a little different for me streaming on a Monday. So, appreciate anybody who's taken the time to hang out with us here today. I see we got about 8 people so far in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much for taking that time to do so. So yeah, like I said, this is the first show where I'm talking to a creator, someone who has been involved with creating a comic book, and I'm really excited for this. And I actually have the book here, but the author of Silver City. If you guys have not read this yet, this is an Aftershock book. Really excited because I have Olivia Cuartero Briggs on as my guest for today. She is the writer and creator of this book right here. So let's just cut right to it, and let me bring on Olivia and we can say hello together. Olivia, what's going on?
Hello, I am well. How are you, Justin?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to hang out with me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for hitting me up.
Absolutely. And I know it's this world has been very different. I know we were talking about it behind the scenes, obviously with the pandemic and things. But I have to say, that all that happening kind of helped me find this platform and being able to do these interviews and things like that. And I'm even more excited for the fact that, like I just mentioned, you are my first official creator on the channel, so I'm really excited for that. And I did want to mention, for those of you watching right now, Olivia is very involved with other things, not just comic book related stuff. And sorry, that was my dog sneezing. So Olivia, I just wrote some notes down and did a little homework on you, Olivia. But you are an award-winning playwright and screenwriter, and you've also done some things with a lot of things with television writing, and now obviously comic book related stuff. So very cool. I as I was looking this up, I'm like, oh man, like this is way beyond comics, and you have your hands in a lot of different things right now. So it's really exciting to see that.
Thank you. Yes, I do. I keep very busy, and I also have 2 young daughters. So there's kind of never a dull moment, which is how I like it.
Right. That's great. That's awesome. I love it. So we have, like I said, we have about 10 people in here. So I'm just going to run through the chat real quick and say a quick hello to those who are hanging out with us. And then from there, we can dive into the fun questions. So just want to highlight, we have TM Nerdy here saying, Station, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Travis, we got my man Alonzo from Team Nerd Herd podcast. Good to see you, Alonzo. Was just over on their channel yesterday, hanging out with them way too late past my bedtime, but good to see you guys. Abista bin Senin, hello Station, thanks for stopping in, appreciate you. We also got Hip Hops and Me, Steve, also from the Team Nerd Herd podcast as well. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Also, hello, John Lover. Thanks for stopping in. As always, appreciated. We got Louis Logics here in the house. We also got my man Jason Claiming Comics in the house, and Magic Lasso hanging out with us as well. Good to see you, Ryan. Let's see. So I mentioned this to you in behind the scenes, Olivia, but that's my dad, Gregory LaRoque, there hanging out with us.
Oh, hi, Dad.
What's going on, Dad? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. We got Fuzzy Dunlop hanging out with us all the way from Scotland. So good to see you, Fuzzy. Thanks for stopping in.
Envious.
Yeah, right. I wish I would love to go to Scotland one day.
Oh, me too.
We got Jennifer. Comics will break your heart. Hello. Thanks for stopping in, Jennifer. And let's see, I think last person I see here is Kenneth Bird hanging out with us. What's going on, Kenneth? Good to see you. Oh, I missed the chat just jumped. Missing Link also here. Evolutionary Comics and Slim. What is up, Sean? Good to see all of you. Very cool. I think we got the rundown for now. So anyone in the chat, if you have questions for Olivia, feel free to drop them in the comment section below, and we will try to get to as many as we can. I do have a couple prepared questions, so we will kind of kick things in gear first and foremost. And by the way, Olivia, I forgot to I meant to tell you this before, but after we go off, when we're done with the show, just stay on camera. I meant to tell you that earlier, but as I close out, just hang in there.
Yeah.
So,
I won't just ditch you. Don't worry.
Okay. All right, cool. So let's jump right into this, Olivia. So, obviously this is a comic book channel, and really focused on, or obviously one of the things that made me reach out to you was you writing, this particular book right here. And I know this is a big project that you've been working on. So I do want to ask, and getting to know your origin story of comic books, I'm curious, where do you stand with comics? Like, do you read comics yourself? And if you do, like, how long have you been reading comics for? Was that always a passion for you, or is this something newer?
So when I was a kid, I loved comics, but there really wasn't very much for me. So most of what I got were, the Archie comics, Archie Digest, Betty and Veronica. I loved them. And I remember how much I used to look for. I grew up in New York City, so like we literally had a newsstand.
Love it.
Friends in that way. And I remember, when I would go with my dad on the way to school, I would always stop in there to see if the new, Archie comic had come out. Because at the time, this is, and whatever, I'm going to date myself, but we're talking like the early 90s here.
Sure.
And at the time, there really wasn't a whole lot that I felt like was for me, or for girls, I should say. Yes, there were women that were featured in comics, but they were usually very voluptuous, scantily clad women. And I remember looking at those images thinking, that's not really something that I want to get involved with.
Right.
Not that they weren't gorgeous, but it just didn't interest me.
Sure.
So that was my introduction to comics. And that's kind of where it ended, because Archie's great, but there's only so long that you can read about the same characters without, wanting something else.
Yeah.
So comics was not a part of my life for a very long time, until really I started to become curious about them when I was in graduate school for dramatic writing, because it just seemed like I was like, something is happening here. Comic books are looking very different. Now there's this thing, everyone's talking about the graphic novel, and they're really beautiful. But I didn't really start to embrace or get into comics until my wonderful friend, Adam Glass, who many of you know, he's written hundreds and hundreds of comic books. He's the one who introduced me to comics. And what happened was I was on a television show called The Arrangement that I was writing on for 2 seasons. And it was my first time being staffed as a television writer. And when the show was canceled, I thought, oh, well, it's not a big deal. I'll just hop on another show. That's really hard. It's very competitive. So I started freaking out, and I called Adam and I said, dude, I need to work. What have you got for me? And he said, well, I don't have anything in TV right now, but I really want to do this comic book called Mary Shelley Monster Hunter, but I need to write it with a woman. It needs a female voice. Because few people know, but Mary Shelley's mother is actually the grandmother of modern feminism. She was an incredibly awesome, cool woman. And Mary Shelley herself was a feminist. So he really felt, the responsible writer that he is, that it was really important to have a female perspective in writing the book. And when he pitched me the very basic concept that, Mary Shelley lived her story, and I was sold. It's like, yes, we are absolutely doing this. And from there, of course, I had Adam to guide me in terms of formatting, and story structure for comic books is actually very similar to episodic television, the way that act structure works. And it's kind of boring. I won't get into all of it. But I had a good foundation for it. Usually stories move a bit faster in comics. That's one luxury that you have.
Right.
So I had him to guide me in that regard. But of course, like any responsible writer or creator, you want to see what else is out there in the marketplace. So that's when I started getting out there and buying comics. Little did I know, if you just meet with these comic book companies as a creator, they'll send you free comics. So you don't have to you don't have to buy them all. But I did, and I like to support the industry anyway.
Totally.
So, I started with single issue because that's what I was doing. And then I kind of graduated into the kind of graphic novel space, checking out more indie trades. Cause, look, I love, DC and Marvel are great. But I find, much like in television with streaming services,
Mm.
I find that the indie comic book companies are where the really cool stories are being told.
Yeah.
I just reading this last night and I'm like obsessed. This is Humanoids. And if there's anyone
yes,
from
I've heard of
there, I want to meet with you. This is sick. So yeah, and the more I read, the more I explore, the more I work with comic book companies to generate ideas and spur stories. It's such a liberating, creative community.
Yeah.
Especially coming from television, where I'm not going to say that the sky's not the limit, but you need to be like a really high level writer to pitch a show that's going to cost like millions and millions of dollars to make.
Sure.
Right. So if I'm pitching a show, I have to keep in mind that whoever I'm pitching to, it's got to be a reasonable show to make. You don't have to worry about that with comics. The world can be as big and weird and visual and kooky as you want it to be, and so can your characters. And then the great thing about that is, down the line, right now is a wonderful time to be a comic book creator if you are also a television writer, because studios and production companies are scooping these properties up like hotcakes.
I've noticed.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep.
Silver City, there's already been some interest in.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was before the first book had even come out.
Wow.
Well, and it's great because you've made a proof of concept, so now they understand what it is and they'll be willing to shell out the money to make it because it's its own entity.
Yep.
So for all of those reasons, I've really, really fallen in love with comic books. I think it's really important as a creator of any type of material to look at other mediums where you can apply your craft, because it forces your brain to work in different ways, really experimental ways. And comics have challenged me in all of the right ways. And I think I'm a much better and more well-rounded writer for being introduced to them.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I, on so many levels, like, I mean, it is incredible to see a lot of different stories and books that I'm reading get picked up, as you mentioned, to become some sort of TV show or movie or series. My girlfriend and I have just been watching Sweet Tooth recently on Netflix, and that was
started watching that last night.
Did you?
Kids, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I was about to mention that. And
I'm so glad that you guys are you guys are watching it. Yeah, we just start, we're like, halfway through now. We binged like 4 episodes or whatever. But like,
it's great to like watch the show and then read the comic afterwards, because I started watching Lock and Key and then I picked up the book, and like, truth be told, I kind of like the book better.
Yeah, no, hey, that happens.
It does.
Sure. Totally happens.
That the two industries can feed each other like that. But yeah, it's the hot ticket right now.
It really is, and especially I know you mentioned the big two, Marvel and DC, and really the differences with independent. I mean, I've talked about this on my channel before, and I know a lot of the friends here that are hanging out with us have mentioned this too, that one of the great things about the independent stories is the fact that, like you said, you can go any direction you want, and it also helps the reader, because the reader doesn't need to know too much to get involved with a book. Someone can pick up Silver City and not need to know 100 or even 20 years of writing prior to Silver City, and sometimes when you get into something like, let's say, Batman, obviously there are so many little storylines and characters that tie into Batman that can be overwhelming to be like, oh, I'm new to comics and I don't know where to start, and so I always tell people that are new, like, pick up an independent book. A lot of those are perfect places to start, and you will get these stories that you never heard of before. And these worlds, like you said, like the world building, it's really cool to see a lot of the different directions that people have gone. And then like you mentioned, they end up, some of them end up being on the big screen, which is really neat. And I could totally see Silver City being on the big screen.
To support your independent comic book company is that when it comes to the big two creators, you don't own the content. can't because you're in their universe. You can't. These are their characters and their storylines. And even if you're generating new storylines, it's all based on what's already been created.
Sure.
But with most of your independent comic book companies, the creator owns 50 and up % of their own creation.
That is huge.
It's really awesome when you support those stories because you're also supporting the creators.
That's a great point. And I just had this talk with a friend on YouTube, Gore Vidal. Shout out to you. He had mentioned something about the writers and the creators that had put together stories that you see right now with like Captain America and Falcon and Winter Soldier being on Disney Plus. The original writer that had, because that's all based on a particular comic book series, and that writer Rick Remender, he mentions and someone has said that he even gets a little salty about it, the fact that he doesn't see any royalties from anything like that, even though it was written back in the early 2000s or whatever. And so now him, and you'll see a lot of other writers who do their own thing, who end up whether it's with Kickstarter or you're working with a publisher, an indie publisher, and just doing your own thing, in big part to, like you said, getting the credit, especially if it gets picked up, that you get credit for that, you get involved with that. And so it makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited that this project here with you're working with Aftershock, which is awesome as well, by the way, because Aftershock is putting out all my personal favorite books right now. I feel like I tell everybody, anything Aftershock puts out, you buy the first issue and just give it a shot, no matter what it is, no matter what genre, just give it a shot, because I have not been let down yet, and that includes your Silver City. So.
And they have wonderful, wonderful editors as well. And it's so important for a creator to know that you can rely on the editors that you work with. And I feel like they never get enough credit for what they do. They're working nonstop. Christina Harrington and Mike Martz were my editors for this book. Mm-hmm. And it gives you freedom as a creator too, because you can try things, and if it doesn't quite work, they're going to be totally honest with you. And I think you gotta give love to comic book editors.
Totally. Absolutely. And I wanted to highlight a couple comments here. By the way, we have 27 people hanging with us right now, so appreciate everybody. Thank you so much, everyone. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. And I didn't mention this earlier, but if you're looking to reach out to Olivia in any way, Olivia, I put all your information in the description below. I put your links to Instagram and Twitter. So if anybody is not following you already, they certainly should be. And so just want to remind everybody that's there. We got 28 now with us. My dad had mentioned, he said it's work for hire when you work mainstream. So that's right. That was the term I remember someone mentioning, work for hire for the big two. Wanted to say a quick hello to my good friend Fable here hanging out with us, Sparks Comics as well. Sparks has done a lot of interesting interviews with a lot of different creators recently as well. So shout out to you, Jeremy. Thanks for hanging out with us. My man Kirk, Comics on the Mind, hanging out. Good to see you, brother. Apologize if I missed some people. Saw Bobby hanging out in here earlier. And a few others. My good friend George Shkreli.
Not optioned yet.
What's that?
Said Silver City got optioned. I wish.
Oh, not yet. Yes, not yet.
It's still out there if anyone's interested.
Hello, Mark. Good to see you. And I saw George in here before, so appreciate you guys hanging out with us. All right, so can you tell us a little bit about the creating or actually just tell us a little bit about Silver City. Like, what came to be with Silver City? Like, what are the influences there? What made you want to go in this direction with this type of story?
Well, the influence was a dream, and it's kind of a crazy story.
Wow.
Because every once in a while, I have a very, very vivid dream. I used to have them more in my 20s. Probably because I drank more before going to sleep. I don't know how else to explain it, but I had very, very vivid dreams. And in one dream, I woke up on the floor of this room I had never been in before. It was really hazy and chaotic, and I couldn't quite see. And someone was walking around shining a flashlight into my eyes. And I said, "What happened?" And they said, "You've passed on." And when they said it, I don't know how I knew, but I knew that it was true. And they said, "Okay, well, you have to find a room for the night. You'll have orientation tomorrow. And, we'll get all your documents together, but, you have to find a room first." So I'm walking through, and there's tons of people, by the way, and everyone's disoriented. And it became very clear that I had died in some sort of mass casualty event.
Mm.
And I'm walking down this hallway, opening doors, and there's someone in every room. And finally, a worker said to me, okay, there's no rooms available here. I'm going to take you to another area. So it was, me and all these other people. Now I'm like having like actual flashbacks of having the dream. It was so bizarre. Because when you see the drawings, you've lived this experience in your mind. And then seeing what Luca Merli came up with for Silver City, it's just mind blowing. He's such an incredible artist. But so I remember I walked out onto this footbridge following this like trail of people. And that's when I saw the Silver City for the first time. And I'm looking out over this expanse of these, weird skyscrapers. Everyone was like a different architectural style. Some were just boxes stacked on top of one another. And then in the middle of it, Luca did something much nicer with the Silver Knight statue, but it was literally like a coat of arms, like stuck on a pole over the entire city. And I just very, very much like in the book, I met these people who lived there. They said I could stay at their apartment, so I didn't have to stay at the university for the night. So I went and I lived with them, and then I found out that I had to pay rent and get a job, and I was so pissed because I was like, what kind of afterlife is this? The whole place was gray and dismal. And I remember actually that I had gotten a job at a coffee shop. And everyone they looked like really cool. Everyone had like half like the shaved, like a half shaved head and dreadlocks, and everyone like felt very underground. But I remember having this terrible feeling that like nothing meant anything anymore. And then I swear the dream kept going. That I had to do volunteer work. It was part of like your service being in Silver City, and it was called Silver City in my dream, by the way.
Wow.
Which is super weird for a lot of reasons, because I don't know if anyone has looked this up. Obviously, I have, but the Silver City has appeared in other comic books before, and I didn't realize until after I had written Silver City. It appears in a few. One of them is a Neil Gaiman series, and it's not really like a level of the afterlife, but it is like a place where like angels live.
Okay.
And it was so weird because I did not know that before I had this dream. So there is something about Silver City that I feel like is in the universal consciousness.
Yeah, like other people. Yeah, other people have visited it in these dreams that you're mentioning.
Totally. I think it must be something
so cool.
in the ether, because it was literally called Silver City in my dream. So I was volunteering back at the university at the same place where I had landed, helping other people who had just arrived. There was a baby in the room, and I picked this baby up. I'm holding this baby, and the professor, as he was known to me, said, "Oh, we usually just get rid of those." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, they won't grow and they don't change. So we usually just get rid of them when they come through." And I said, "You are not touching this baby. I'm keeping this baby, and I'm going to take care of it." And there was like a time jump in my dream, which sounds crazy, but there was. And I remember feeling around in her mouth, and she was growing teeth.
Oh, wow.
That's when I realized she's not dead. I don't know how she got down here, but she's not dead. And I realized I had to get back, and that's when I woke up.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
This is wild.
It was wild. But I woke up and I knew that I had something. And at the time, my roommate, Brian, we had gone to college together. We had done a lot of projects together. And at the time we had this like little production company. So we were always throwing ideas around. So it was great. First thing when I woke up, like pounding on Brian's door, this is the dream I had. I think this is an idea. We start, talking about it, brainstorming. But it wasn't until many years later that I actually started writing it. At one point, I tried to write it as a novel, but it never felt right. And that, when I said I started thinking about comic books in grad school, it was because of Silver City. I thought this might be the only way I can really get this idea and this world across to people in an interesting, dynamic way.
Yeah.
So obviously, for anyone who's read the first issue, I decided not to go with a baby just because I feel babies are really vulnerable and there wasn't enough character to explore.
Sure.
Babies aren't characters. I've had two. They're great characters, but for the sake of the comic book, I wanted to make the child older. So the baby's name was June in my dream. So Junie exists in the comic book, but she's 12.
Yep.
And like little bit of a spoiler alert in my story, but that's okay because book 2 is coming out very soon, and you guys.
Soon, yeah. like a week from now, right? Or the 16th, I think you said.
Yeah, the 16th. It drops on
Cool.
the 16th. I should get my copies sooner. I was hoping that I would have them from the publisher today, so I could show you the beautiful Roberta in Granada cover.
Oh man,
Haven't come yet. I'm checking for like my FedEx alerts every day.
looking out the window.
Exactly. But that's where the idea came from. And then, I spent, and for those of you who want to create comic books out there, or I hope this doesn't deter anyone, but it took years to come up with like the mythos and the world and to really think about, well, as the books go on, you'll see that there are other elements that are incorporated into what Rue and the Dead can do, and developing those stories and that mythos and the idea that, there used to be no divisions between the world of the living and the worlds of the afterlife. That all came about from years of brainstorming and just kind of cherry picking what worked.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because right after I finished Mary Shelley Monster Hunter, before it had even come out, Silver City was the only idea that I followed up with to pitch Aftershock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had only written like a 2-pager. With Mary Shelley, we had the whole thing outlined before we got greenlit. So I'd only written this 2-pager, and Lee Kramer of Aftershock called me and he's like, "We want to do this." And I was like, "Are you sure?"
Are you sure?
Yeah, then I outlined the whole thing. That was the longest part of the process because it's the story is very, very integrated, and there's an arc, a 5-book arc. There is a big cliffhanger at the end, so I hope you all don't hate me for that. But it is also a satisfying conclusion to a storyline. But there's a bunch of kind of seemingly disparate elements that all kind of come together at the end. So plotting that was a big endeavor. And I have like a half a wall in my bedroom that's painted. It's black and it's a magnetic wall. And literally the entire space was filled with magnetic cards with like scrawled writing all over it before I was able to break the story. So yeah, keep reading until the end of book 5. So you get to see how everything.
That is awesome. I cannot wait. First of all, the description you had shared with your dream, I'm literally picturing the intro of the book. And so between what you had said and what Luca had been able to draw up and put together with the flashlights and people directing you on where to go, like that is the book. I mean, anyone watching right now, if you guys have not read it, you've just got a visual of how this book really does kick off and open up. And that is so crazy that you were able to not just get like 1 or 2 ideas from a dream, but a literal walkthrough of like what this world. Yeah, it's like so wild to hear all this. I wanted there were 2 comments. There were 2 comments I wanted to highlight. Fuzzy said, "What were you drinking to get these types of dreams?"
Drinking back then. Oh, you know what? I was big on tequila.
There you go.
That might, because it's
Fuzzy, write it down. Fuzzy, write it down.
It's a stimulant. So
okay. Yeah. There you go. My dad said he's hooked, so there you go.
Oh, thank you.
Dad, I'll send you a copy, Dad. And let's see. I think there was one other one. I think I can't find it here. One other thing I wanted to mention that I also, I mean, I love the story. I love the opening book to this. As you mentioned, like the idea that you had to work. And just seeing your reaction here of like, wait, I have to work? Like I'm in an afterlife. Like, why do I have to even have responsibilities? I thought it was so interesting to also the ideas that you mentioned, like the fact that you could drink all you want and you don't get a hangover. I thought was really interesting. And then also that whole concept of like, however you died, that's the body that you're in, that's the body you keep. And it just made me think of some like real world things where like, if we knew that this was the next step in real life, it's crazy to think. This is just where my mind went when I read this, where I'm like, would I want to be younger and be in the afterlife to like just to be younger, and look younger and, versus, growing old. Like, would I want to be an old man in Silver City, or would I want to be someone younger? But of course, yeah, like you mentioned, like that would mean I'd have to die now. Like I'd have to die early, which is a scary, thought to think about. But it just made me think on so many different levels of this book. And like, if this was the next step, You know, like what are some pros and cons? Like, oh, like, okay, you're in your 20s in Silver City. Yes, you died young, but you're in Silver City and you're in your 20s. You could party it up and, you know, drink and whatever and not have to worry about hangovers. Like there were just all these things out in my head.
Pros. And if
Yeah.
you're, you know, Janis Joplin, you're probably not having a terrible time. You know,
Right.
there's some people that really are.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, no, it is so many, just made me think on so many levels. It was really cool. I see Steve here saying, love this read, cannot wait to see more.
oh,
Olivia's enthusiasm and love for her story is infectious, James says. Thank you, James. Appreciate
thank you, James.
that.
I like to talk about story. It's my favorite thing in the whole world.
Totally. No, and you can certainly see your passion for this. I mean, just hearing the story coming out and how you're explaining it. So Mark here says, Mark says he hasn't read it yet, but we'll pick it up and get to it and read. Awesome. Good stuff. Mark, you absolutely should.
Well, on the 16th, you can pick up books 1 and 2, which might be more satisfying. You'll get to read more story.
Yeah. I see my friend Hood Rat Comics in the house. What's up, Ian? Good to see you. We got 31 people in here, by the way. So this is always awesome. Appreciate everybody. Jason here saying, hearing all this makes me appreciate the book even more. Absolutely, Jason. I agree. Getting much more insight and hearing these things are really nice coming from Olivia. So Olivia, tell me a little bit about the feeling that you got when, I know you posted this on your Instagram page, when the book first came out. You went to a local comic shop in LCS and you went looking for the book yourself. Like, what is that? How does that feel? I mean, this is, you know, to have this project be, you know, off the ground now. You know, you mentioned it took years to put this thing together. Like, what was that feeling like to just see your book on the shelf and know that that's, you know, the work you did?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many feels, and it's like it's all the time. But that particular day, you know, it's like my big release day, but it's a weird time, you know, because I can't do signings. There's no comic book stores that are really ready for that. You can't have that many people indoors.
Together. Yeah.
You know, for an outdoor event with like peepers blowing around everywhere. I mean, I think it would be kind of a disaster. So I wasn't able to schedule any signings. And so for that reason, it kind of felt like it's like, oh, it's a release day, but whatever. And I had plans with my family that day. I think we went to Universal, which has opened back up again because we lived across the street from Universal.
Oh, nice. I'm jealous.
There. Oh yeah, it was super fun. And then we stopped by. There is a comic book store at Universal City Walk. It's a Dark Horse store, but it's like very touristy, so they don't have a lot of independent comics. So like, we went over there because it was right next door, and of course they didn't have it. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe like not a lot of people are carrying it. Okay, I don't really want to think about it. And my husband's like, are you sure you don't want to go to a store? And I was like, oh, it's okay. And then we're like in the car and driving home, and I was like, no, this is dumb. I want to go to a store and see my comic book on the shelf since day one. So we went to Collector's Paradise in North Hollywood because my husband, he's so cute. I don't know why he does this because we get a lot of free copies, but every time I have a comic book coming out, he like pre-orders it from like all over town.
Oh, nice.
To like drive around picking them up. So he had already been to a couple comic book stores earlier that day. So I said, I don't want to go to one that you've been to already. It's like, that's weird. Let's go to a different one. I've never been to Collector's Paradise before. It's an awesome little shop. Walk in, and my husband's like filming me, which is another really cute.
I love that he captured this, by the way.
I can't see it. I walked right by it, right? I'm looking, I'm searching the shelves. He's like zooming in on the book on the shelf. Finally, I find it, and it happened to be a pick of the week, and I was so honored.
That's awesome.
And there was a woman who was there were a couple people that were working there, but one of them was a woman. She was like, I must have said something. She goes, oh, you're really excited. I said, oh, well, I wrote this, and it's a pick of the week. She was like, oh, and she like walked away from the person she was helping, and she was like, you're gonna sign all those. I'm like, all of them? She goes, yeah, they didn't have that many left. So I sat there and I signed them.
Oh, so cool.
She came up to me afterwards and she said, this is really important to me because we've had a few signature series at the shop, but we've never had one with a female creator. And this really means a lot to me. And that, of course, meant a lot to me because, you know, the comic book industry, like many of these creative industries, is very male dominated. It's not exclusionary at all, but what happens is that, you know, when all of your contacts are dudes, then when you have a new idea for a book, you're gonna, contact your dude friend artist. And when you're a comic book publisher and you have an idea for an area that you want to go into, you're gonna hit up your dude friend creator, right?
Mhm.
So it just ends up generating a lot of dude activity.
Sure.
So it oftentimes can feel like, that there's not that many of us women in the business, but in fact there are. And it was wonderful to have that moment with this, this woman who works at a comic book shop, and we both kind of bonded and were a little emotional over that.
That is awesome.
I'm not only a female creator, I'm also a Latina. And I think that representation is really important always. I
Absolutely.
never saw people growing up who looked like me. And, like vaguely tan, can't really tell where you're from, but yet people always feel the need to ask. So that's why, Rue is the same way. She's vaguely tan. You can't really tell where she's from. And even she doesn't know where she's from.
Right.
So that was the day. But I'll tell you, that it was a wonderful emotional experience. But I have emotional experiences with this book almost on a daily basis because it's still being illustrated. The
Oh,
first
wow.
books.
Yeah.
So I am getting sketches and inks and full colors from Luca on a regular basis.
Wow. Okay.
Every time I see something that he has created, I always have an emotional reaction to
Sure.
it. It's amazing. It's amazing what he does. And we have never met
Wow.
face.
Oh, wow.
He's Italian. He lives in Italy.
Right.
It's also great because, we're on completely different time schedules. So most of his emails come in the middle of the night. So when my youngest is under 2, so she still is in a crib in the bedroom, so I can get to her easily in the morning. So I'm snuggling with my baby at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And I pick up my phone and I get to look at these beautiful sketches that he sent.
So cool.
It's so cool. It's great. And when the first book came out, I sent out an email to my editors and to Luca and to the owners of Aftershock, just telling them how amazing this experience has been and just thanking them. And Luca's like, well, there's still a lot of hard work to go for you.
Yeah. He's in the middle of the trenches right now.
I keep forgetting that he's like sweating. And sometimes I'll
Right.
see, social media updates where he's like, got all the inks done, haven't slept. And I'm like, oh, sorry. He's so brilliant. He is so brilliant. And I lucked out so much with him.
I wanted to ask how that came to be with working with Luca. Were you guys paired together, or he was someone you already wanted to have on the project, or how that works?
I was at the beginning of the process, I was really fighting for a female artist. Adam and I had wanted a female artist on Mary Shelley Monster Hunter, weren't able to find someone who was available. And the same kind of thing happened with Silver City, where, they just kept reaching out and the artists were busy. Because the good thing about being a woman in the comic book industry is the industry knows that diversity is important and that more women need to be represented in the business.
Yeah.
So once you have a bit of a reputation, the work is going to come. You're going to get the work. It's just, cracking that egg. So, all of the female artists that they were contacting were busy. And then they said, okay, well, not a woman, but will you take a look at this guy's stuff? And I was like, oh, we have to do this. It was like above and beyond what I ever thought I could have. Not that I own him, but
Right.
he's now a part of me. And the whole experience has been amazing. And then Roberta with the covers, and then the incentive covers. I put this one behind me.
Yep. Love it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to zoom in on you for a second because
go ahead.
That is awesome.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely
worth noting. I was telling Justin this, but for those of you who don't know, Snacks in the book was my actual dog. He had lymphoma, and I had to put him down when I was 5 months pregnant at the time, and he was about 10 years old. And it was the most heartbreaking experience I've ever had. And I wasn't ready to let him go. And this was right around the time that all the contracts had gone through, and I was to start outlining and scripting the first book for Silver City. And I thought, well, why wouldn't Snacks be there? And so he is a character in the story, and he will be an even more integral part of the story moving forward. He has a story. If you
I
didn't notice, he's the only animal in Silver City, and there's a reason for that.
I love that. I love hearing that, and it's so special. And I'm sorry, going through that process. I can only imagine, but it is awesome that you're able to keep Snacks and include them in the book, and excited to see more of Snacks. And I love that art, the cover that you have there. It's absolutely stunning.
I know. I love it, and just like the way that she is touching him. I'm not a visual artist. At all. I don't know how people create things like this that elicit such emotion. I'm envious. As a writer too, you listen to songs, and sometimes I feel like I could write, a 120-page screenplay that would not elicit the same emotion as a 3-minute song.
Right.
So for all of you visual artists and songwriters out there, you guys did it right.
Yep. That's awesome. I wanted to highlight a couple things here. Gore Vidal, who I was talking about earlier, he said, interesting discussion makes me think of Day Tripper by the Fabian Moon and Gabriel Ba, and what a fascinating dream. That was talking about the dream. Ian said he's going to pick up the book this week.
Thank you, Ian. I hope you love it.
I saw in here, sorry guys if I missed this. Where'd that go? Where did that comment go? Steve had just mentioned that was his LC. Oh, here it is. That was his LCS. The one he said Winnetgate location. I'm not familiar with that is. But whatever local comic shop that you had mentioned, I guess that's the one he's familiar with. Cool. he's over on the West Coast there. So
yay.
Very cool. Also, a quick hello to Uncanny Swag, who's hanging out with us, and who I just saw. Oh, Sheena's with us. What's going on, Sheena? Good to see you. Love the idea of marginality. Ian is saying, let's see, what else is there? Right on. Representation matters. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. What's going on? Voice Injection. Good to see you. We still got 31 people in here. Make sure you smash that like button. And if you're not following Olivia already, make sure I put all the information in the description below. So appreciate you guys taking this time. I want to just ask you, because I know we have some rapid questions that I want to get to as well. Sure. But I do want to ask, for my comic collector origin series that I interview the community and ask them how they got into the hobby. One of the questions I always like to ask them is what kind of advice they would give to someone new trying to get into reading comic books and into this hobby. But what I want to ask you on kind of that same level is, do you have any advice, if you could give one piece of advice, whether it be very specific or general, what advice would you give to someone new that's trying to get into the writing side or the writing portion of comic books? Is there anything that comes to mind that you would tell somebody?
Have some solid pitches ready. So that's when you meet with a comic book company, and sometimes you'll meet with the editors, sometimes you'll meet with someone a little higher up. They want to know what ideas you have. In the entertainment industry, they take a lot of general meetings with writers, and oftentimes with executives. It's a kind of a general get to know you, but I've noticed with comic book companies, they want to get to know you too, but they're really interested in the little nuggets of ideas that you have. So having ideas ready when you go into these meetings, they don't have to be fully formed ideas, but you should be able to express them in 1 to 3 sentences max.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be like a highly structured log line, but it should be that short, right? That really encapsulates the idea, and have a couple, because you'll notice when you go into these meetings, you can kind of soft pitch one idea and you don't see their eyes light up and they kind of take the conversation somewhere else. That's the nice way of saying that's not really for us. So Then try again with your next idea. And if you have 3, I think you have a pretty good chance of piquing their interest with at least 1, and that'll get you in the door to more discussions and getting something rolling. That for me, that's the route that I went. And I got very lucky because I was introduced to the business through someone who had been working in comics for a long time. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people create comic books independently, and then, show them to the world, and that's how they make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
But I would say, the route that I went, I think, is kind of the route of least resistance. So if you can make friends with someone who writes comics and have them introduce you to whatever comic book company they have the best relationship with,
Mhm.
most comic book companies are really open to referrals from writers that they respect.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so make friends with a creator.
Yep.
You can even ask them to mentor you. This is something that's very common, writers mentoring other writers. And work with them. They'll give you tips, and then maybe they'll provide an introduction.
I love that. Love that. Love that. That's I mean it's and just like any other industry, I was in the music industry for a little while. Things like this, some of the things you mentioned is like a lot of it has to do, can help to know people, to make those connections with others, to network with others. And then as you mentioned, the biggest thing, be prepared, essentially, right? I mean, having these different options to be able to pitch, being familiar with the pitch yourself and, going into that. It's kind of like your elevator pitch, right? It's almost like a salesman in a way, a salesperson. It's like
An elevator pitch.
Yeah.
And elevator pitch is kind of like a dirty phrase because it sounds like cheap what you're
Sure.
throwing in, but it's not. If you
Right.
have a well-crafted elevator pitch, that is the most fantastic way to share your idea and get people hooked. And Justin, I'm really glad that you're mentioning this because I feel like it still feels like the Wild West out there, whether you want to get into comics or whether you want to get into TV or you want to write, your own narrative podcast. For dramatic writers, it's when you are getting started, it's so hard to figure out where to go and how to start, which is why we were discussing this before we went on.
Mhm.
I'm also in the midst of creating a subscription box for dramatic writers called the Storyer Box. If
Yes.
any of you are interested, we're at storierbox.com. And we're also on the socials at Storierbox. But that's in development right now. I'm hoping to have the first shipment of boxes out this fall. But it's all geared towards helping creators stay creative, get into the business and form careers. Because especially in this country, man, the US just doesn't support the arts. They don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to support each other. And that's what the Storyer Box is all about, in addition to all the other things. I like to stay busy. I like to stay busy.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. And that was something too I wanted to ask is
Yeah.
do you have any, are you working right now in any other comic book projects aside from Silver City at the moment that you have in the works?
There's like contracts that are about to come falling down, or I'm in negotiations for a few.
Okay.
So I can't give crazy details, but I am cooking up something in the upper YA space for Boom right now. No, I'm not sorry, not Boom. This one's Oni. I just
okay.
all the companies. This one's with Press, and I'm working with the fabulous Jasmine and Mary over there. So we're cooking up something really special that I'm really, really excited about. I think we just found our artist.
Cool.
So that's going to be in the YA universe, and I think that I can safely tell you that it is like a kind of a comedy horror hybrid. So,
all right.
It's chasing serial killers, but it's going to be very funny.
Awesome. I love it.
Bunch of women. Yes, I'm excited about it too. It's a bunch of teenage girls, which is super fun to write. And then it's looking like we will be continuing the Monster Hunter universe over at Aftershock.
Cool.
And I won't tell you what the title of that is. I will say it might be another famous author.
All right.
Dealing with, but that's going to be moving forward too. So I'm really, really, really excited about that because Adam Glass and I have had the story for these the first 5 books for a long time, and I've just been dying to tell it. So that's what's happening in the comic book world, and then in TV, there's really exciting stuff happening, but I can't talk about any of it.
I totally understand.
It hasn't been announced in the trades yet is really the big thing.
Gotcha.
But there's 2 really exciting projects that are underway, and I'm currently pitching a show with one of my best friends in the entire world, and hopefully that will land somewhere as well. So lots of stuff going on. And now I'm starting this subscription box company, and I know that like halfway through the summer, all the contracts are going to come through and I'm just going to be dumped with everything. But,
of course, right.
like all good problems to have.
Totally. Absolutely.
I'm very lucky right now. There's a lot going on. And my episode of Queen of the South aired a few weeks ago. I worked on the last season, which was such an absolute joy. And I think that like the only fans that are on par with comic book fans might be Queen of the South fans.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's just it's an amazing fan base, and it's been incredible to be part of the Queen Familia, and it's something that I will never forget. So
very cool. Very, very cool. I love it. I mean, with everything going on and you know, you only being able to say so much, maybe at some point we can have a part 2 of this this origin, you know,
I would love to. No,
down the road.
Honestly, hit me up anytime. You know, it might be fun since we're talking at the beginning of the series. Let's reconnect after book 5 has come out. And
that would be so cool.
We don't have to worry about spoilers.
Right.
And all of you guys can ask me whatever you want about the series, and like,
yes,
why did you do this to us?
Right.
And what does it all mean? So that would be fun.
That would be awesome. That would really be awesome. Really excited for that. So, and I'm excited for the next issue. I know, you know, it's right around the corner. So anybody here right now with us, if you guys are not reading this book, you know, this is what we're talking about here, Silver City, Aftershock. It definitely. And I should show this one too, because I really like this cover as well.
Oh, I have that one framed on my wall as well. At some point, I'm gonna have all the covers framed. But that, totally. When I first saw that one, and the reason why that one is so poignant to me is because, like I told you, in my dream there was that moment where I was standing there on the footbridge looking over the.
Looking over.
He captured like the reverse angle of my experience in my dream. There it is.
Yeah.
And I just love Rue in that. Doesn't she make you want like a full arm tattoo?
Totally. Totally.
I started. We'll see.
I see that.
Yeah, this one's for my second daughter.
Oh, I love it.
For Kit, and she knows it too. She goes,
I love it. Very cool. Very cool. I wanted to highlight here. I saw a voice injection saying this video series is pretty rad. Love the creator interviews. Thanks so much.
Yay, Justin.
Appreciate that. We have my friend Zen Multiverse hanging out with us. What's going on, Zen? Good to see you. I saw, let's see. I saw there was something else in here. Something Wong says Olivia sounds like a cool creator. I think she is a pretty cool creator.
I tried. No.
Sheena's very excited. She says, how exciting. I thought I saw one other thing. Guys, I apologize if I missed anything. I'm kind of scrolling through some of the comments. Appreciate all you guys here hanging out with us. We are going to do some rapid fire questions, so hang tight with us as we have a couple other things that we want to run through. Let's see. My dad said the guy on cover 1 has Justin's old haircut. Oh, yeah, I used to have a mohawk. Yeah. Thanks, Dad, for the reminder of that. Let's see. Are you giving any of us Queen of the South comic book? Oh,
yeah, you got to talk to USA about that one. Or actually, no, that would be Fox. Fox owns the show. So yeah, that would be all wrapped up with them. It's a pretty good idea though, man. I'll pitch it to them.
There you go.
We've been joking about a spin-off series, the Pote Kellyanne show. That's a show I would want to see. Or otherwise.
Let's see. I saw Fuzzy saying, really enjoyed this show, guys. Olivia comes across great and so engaging personally.
Oh, I'm so sad.
There you go. Mark saying, on my pickup list now. Very good. Very good, Mark. I saw my man Chamorro Cinema in the house here. What's going on, Manny? Thanks for stopping in. Let me see. Okay, so I think we're caught up at the moment with comments. So let's dive into some of these rapid questions as we're closing out the hour here, and then as a final rundown, we'll ask you where everybody can find you on social and stuff. So my first question for you is, let me bring this up here. So if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Oh gosh, one superpower. Gosh, it's between flying and being invisible. Oh, you know what? Both, because if I'm flying, I don't want anyone to fucking know.
That's fair.
I don't want to end up on some slab right there. So flying if I can be
If
invisible.
you give it, we'll give you that. We'll give you the duality there. That's cool. It makes sense. I mean, hey, look, in today's world with cameras and cell phones, people can capture you even if you are flying.
Yeah.
So it
Oh,
would
yeah.
be
I
good to be
want
invisible too.
shot down. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, we don't want that. All right, great answer to that. Let's see. So yeah, and I should mention, some of these are a little more comic book related, or focused, and then I have some non-comic book related ones. Let's see. What if is there another artist, or is there an artist or another writer that you would love to one day work with on a comic book? Anyone that come to mind, whether it's a co-writing series or another artist?
Roberta, who did my covers.
Okay.
We've been trying to find an artist for this other book with Oni, and I was like, can we please have Roberta? But of course, she's very, very busy. Roberta, if you're out there, I want to do a whole book series with you at some point. So let me know when you're free.
There you go. There you go. I love it. Do you have a favorite comic book film or series that you've watched recently, or something that's been out in the past? Anything that come to mind?
Is Motherland. Do you
Oh,
know?
okay. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Who a Vertigo comic?
Oh, okay. Vertigo.
Yeah, which isn't really around anymore, which is kind of bogus.
Yeah.
Is
Oh
it?
yeah, Motherlands. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Motherlands? Yeah, I was totally blown away by the storytelling. It went in directions I did not expect. It's such a cool book. You have to pick it up.
Cool. I'll put it on my list. It's on my list. I love it. I love it. Let's see. If Silver City becomes a movie, or TV show, who could you see playing the role of Rue?
Oh my God. What a question. I'm kind of obsessed with Gina Rodriguez right now.
Mm,
I know she usually plays lighter and fluffier, but I think she could totally do this.
absolutely.
Um, oh, well, Mila Kunis isn't Latina necessarily,
Mm.
and she's a little bit older now. Not that that's a bad thing, but Rue's supposed to be in her 20s. I mean, it would be like a young Michelle Rodriguez type.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. I can see. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 3 options.
I'll take them. We'll take them all. I love it. I was thinking, I was like, I hope this question is not too deep, because there can be so much thought put into this, and but it's a fun question. So
yeah, that was like right off the cuff.
Yeah.
If you want to talk, I'm here.
Yeah. Let's see. I think. What was the? Do you recall the most recent comic book that you read? I know that you said you started picking up some comic books. Starting to read some.
I'm in the middle of reading Marilyn Monsters right now, which is awesome, and I'm loving it.
Nice.
And what did I read before this? I have so many. Another comic that I really enjoyed is Horde, which is another Aftershock.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So crazy. It's this woman who's a hoarder, and all the things that she hoards start coming to life. It's one of those ideas. Damn it, I wish I thought of that.
Yeah. That is cool. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check that out. It sounds really interesting.
It's very cool.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to change gears a little bit here, ask you some non-comic book related stuff. First and foremost, if there's one film that comes to mind, what is your favorite film of all time?
My favorite? Oh my gosh.
I know these are heavy.
Yeah, it's a close tie, I think, between Forrest Gump and Jurassic Park, which seem very different, and they are.
No, but they're so good. I love Forrest Gump. I love Jurassic Park. My girlfriend would love you right now, because she loves those movies. Both of them. Literally, we can have those on the back, in the background, TV anytime. So
that's what I used to do with Forrest Gump when I was in my early 20s. I didn't have television because I couldn't afford it, but I did have a TV with a VHS player, and so I would put in Forrest Gump, and it would just play all the time in my apartment, so I wouldn't feel alone.
Yeah, it's so good. That's just so great. Let's see. I saw Voice Injection said Michelle Rodriguez lost character. Anna Lucia needs a comic book following her police career. Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
Her police career? She had a career as a policewoman?
I guess so.
Wow, I would not want to be pulled over by her.
No, me neither. Uh,
Her
uh,
lost character needs.
the,
Okay, her lost character needs. I see.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah. There's my girlfriend, Lady No Good, Lindsay. She
Oh,
said, "Great
hi.
films, great films." Um, let's see, was there something else in here I missed? Let's see. My dad said, "Olivia, maybe you can ask Justin why tomorrow is special."
Why
Oh,
is tomorrow so special?
my birthday is tomorrow.
I knew that's what it was going to be. Fellow Gemini. My birthday's May 28th.
Oh, there you go. Well, happy birthday.
Another tattoo. Yes, to you as well.
Love it. Thanks. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. I literally, as I'm reading that question, I did not know where he was going as I'm reading. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I guess it is tomorrow.
Oh, you're such a dad.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Oh, Steve talking about if you got pulled over by Michelle Rodriguez, he says you wouldn't get away from her because she can drive a car like nobody's business.
Right?
Yeah, there's no escaping that.
The scene that would be fruitless and would probably result in you like dead along the highway. She is a badass.
Ian says that you are dope. There you go.
Appreciate that. Very good use of a 90s term that I always try and use, and it sounds so dumb coming out of my mouth.
Oh no. Bring it back, Olivia. Bring it back. Always got to keep it alive.
Banana clips. Hair, I forgot. For your hair.
Yeah. Steve saying happy birthday to the both of us. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Lindsay saying the Mohawk was amazing, and I wish it would have have a brief comeback. The Mohawk, I could rock the Mohawk again. I could probably do it.
Just take off the hat, and it's like.
Yeah. I have my hair. I comb to the side, so I just need to spike it up.
Oh.
And something Wong saying support Olivia all the way. Absolutely, guys. Their information's in the description below. Make sure you guys do that. All right, a couple other questions. Not done with the questions yet. So. Where do you stand with music? What is your favorite genre of music, and do you have a favorite artist and or band that comes to mind?
Okay, this is really tough because I kind of love all music. There's very few genres of music that I don't like, that I can't find something in. But let's see, artists that I have been loving recently. Her name is Ivy. Let me make sure I'm so old. I have to like Google my references. Yeah, Ivy Levan or Levin. I'm not sure how you say it.
Oh, Ivy Levin. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Levin. I'm not sure. I love her. Nice. And George Ezra. I'm like, he's obsessed with that man.
Great. Yeah. Great stuff.
Those are the two now. That will change. I love music.
So I'm with you.
Jocelyn is an all-time favorite, and that's why she appears in the comic book.
I was wondering why you tied that in. That was actually something I meant to ask.
Total wish fulfillment for me, because if I had to live in this shithole of the afterlife, if I could imagine one silver lining, it's that Janis Joplin, I would finally get to see her in concert. I loved her as a child, and I did not know she was dead until I was 12. And I lost her all over again. So
heartbreaking. I love it. I was gonna say, for what you said with genres and stuff, I'm the same way. I explore all types of genres. I think there's great music in all genres, and you just got to take the time to really look for that. And that's how I feel about comic books too. I'm very open to a lot of genres because there's just great writing in all genres. If it's done right, it's a good book. So I think that's a great way to go about it. Let's see. What about are you a fan of any sports? And if you are, what sport and what's your favorite team?
Oh, like professional sports, not to play. Okay, all you guys have these like really nice comments about how much you like me right now, and you might hate this, but like I was just born a Yankee fan. I'm sorry.
I can't see it, but I'm a Yankee
fan. All right, then I'm talking to the right people.
Yes, you are on the right. Yeah.
Hate on the Yankees. They love to hate on the Yankees, and I get it, but at least we didn't cheat in the World Series.
There you go. Oh. I don't know if there's any Houston fans in here, but
Dodgers too. I love the fact that I live in a place where the baseball team came from Brooklyn. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But in terms of playing, I love Ultimate Frisbee.
Oh, heck yeah. I used to love Ultimate Frisbee. Are you kidding me? That was such a cool game. Like we
It's
played it in high school and
best at. I
yeah.
loved playing sports, but I was never good at any of them. But
Oh,
also Frisbee, like I got good. It took me until I was in my 20s, but I got there.
hey, better late than never,
Yeah.
with practice and dedication, you can do anything, uh, it's funny. Have you ever played Can Jam? Have you ever heard of that Frisbee game?
No, what is that?
All right, so it's a and this is so random because I was just talking to somebody and you bring up Frisbee, so I have to bring this up because it's just on my head, or on my mind. So Can Jam is a Frisbee game that basically is between, it's like you and your partner and you verse two other people, almost like horseshoes, where you're throwing something back and forth. In this case, it's a Frisbee. So you stand, 60 feet away from each other or whatever, but you have what looks to be like a trash can in front of you. Like it has like a top to it, and your partner has to throw the Frisbee over the can, and you have to hit it into the can. And if you do that, you get 3 points. Or if it goes off to the side, you have to hit it against the side of the can before it hits the ground, and you get 1 point. And you have to go up to 21. And then you play kind of that way. And then there's a little slit in the front, a little slot in the front, and if you can hit that, you win the game automatically. So if you're accurate,
fun.
Yeah, so it's like horseshoes in a way, like the scoring system and stuff. And if you go over, you got to go back down to 17, and you and your partner have to, hit 21 exactly. And then I always add in this like more of a drinking game where the rule is you have to have like a beer or something in your hand, so you can only use one hand at all times. I think that's just the only way to play it. So if you're of age watching this,
loss of one of your hands, yes, I can see that would become
a little more challenging. Yeah. But anyway, so there's my my sell on Can Jam if anybody's trying to. I don't affiliate myself with Can Jam in any way, but it is a great game. Let's see. I had two other questions here. Best concert you've ever been to?
Best concert I've ever been to. Oh gosh, that's a hard one. Okay. My husband and I fell in love with music festivals a couple years ago, and we went to the Doheny Blues Festival, which was amazing. And we were there because Blues Traveler was performing, and you're just not a child of the 90s if you don't love Blues Traveler.
I love it.
And in the middle of the day, there was this woman performing who I had never heard of before, but a lot of the people there had come to see her, and her name was Beth Hart. For those of you who don't know, find out who Beth Hart is. She won Star Search like several times when she was younger. The most amazing voice I have ever heard in my life. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about her. And blues is very male dominated, and to see this incredible woman on the stage who is like in her 40s. I remember I grabbed my daughter, I put her on my shoulder, we went all the way up to the front of the stage and just like soaked her in. And it was a very emotional experience, which then spurred me on this. I wrote an entire pilot inspired by this woman. And so yeah, that was the best.
I love it. I just wrote her name down, so I will definitely check her out later. I see my friend Greg here, Bearded Comic Bro. He was actually my guest on this Saturday's Comic Collector Origins. Good to see you, Greg. He said, "Did someone say music festivals?" Yes, please. He is a big fan of music festivals. Ready to
go back?
Yes.
It was such a bummer. We had tickets to these music festivals last summer, and we're gonna get to redeem them. But they are the best. I know some people just like completely can't stand them and like the whole porta potty thing, but my thing is if I'm using a porta potty, it means I'm doing something awesome. So.
Totally, absolutely, well said too. That is cheers to that. Seriously. Let's see. Voice Injection said, "I was lucky enough to see Eric Clapton in 2004. He still had it. That's awesome."
Actually, Eric Clapton was the first concert I ever went to. I was 15 years old. This was at I think it was Madison Square Garden. And it was the first time I ever bought alcohol. And I was age, but I had a very short haircut and I pretty much looked the same. And I remember carrying the beers back to my seat and I was shaking.
I would be too.
But yeah. And I cried with him, Tears in Heaven. He's fabulous.
So good, so good. Ian Hoodrat says Bessie Smith, woman blues singers, woman blues singer are the best. There you go. Let's see. A couple of all right. So if you could go anywhere in the world on a week-long vacation, paid in full, and there's no pandemic, it's completely safe to travel, you and your family for 1 week, where would you go on vacation? Somewhere you haven't been before.
Oh yes. Oh yes. No, I have a bucket list. Well, okay. It's gonna have to be New Zealand because right now it's number one on
Oh
the
my god.
list. And mostly because if you like travel around, and I've done quite a bit of traveling. I used to like my mother lived in Hong Kong and mainland China, and I lived in Singapore for a few years, so I traveled a lot around Asia. And they have these companies that like host all of these like crazy activities like whitewater rafting and zip lining through the rainforest and zorbing, which is when you get into this massive ball and they inflatable ball, they push you down a hill.
Yeah.
All of those crazy ass things originated in New Zealand. It's all companies from New Zealand that run these programs all over the
Oh
country.
oh man.
My mother and I have been not only, I mean, it's gorgeous, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But yeah, so my mother and I have been wanting to go to New Zealand for like a decade now. So yeah, it's gonna have to be New Zealand, and I will be zorbing, and I will probably be vomiting afterwards.
That sounds amazing. Not the vomiting part, but everything else. I have to say, when you first said New Zealand, I was laughing because that was Greg's answer on Saturday. He literally said that as well. He said, "Stop stealing my answers." Two of the things you just said.
Sorry, Greg.
No, it's so funny that aligned. That he literally had said the same thing, that he wants to go there.
We can go together.
There you go, Greg.
For the ride. Let's do it.
That's so funny. Yeah, great choice. Last question here for you as we close out here. And I always like to end it on this because, well, you'll see why. So, where do you stay? Like, if it's a Friday night, it's just you and your husband, and you have the house to yourself. You're and it's dinner time. You're going to. You can either go out to eat, or you can order in, or you can cook, whatever option you want. What is your go-to meal on a Friday night?
If I can have whatever I want?
Whatever you want.
Oh, okay. I know. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is sushi.
Yes. I love sushi.
Specifically from Sushi Dan, which is right down the street.
Nice.
And I already know what our entire order is.
Yeah, you're
with them right now. Yeah, that's like my favorite thing is the baked crab hand roll, forbidden pleasure roll, no onion and veal sauce. Yep. That's what it would be. And we would be ordering in.
Nice choice.
Watching something fabulous like Palm Springs, which we just watched last night.
There you go. Or Sweet Tooth, you could add in.
Yeah.
Loving it. Very cool. Yeah, I see a couple of people here agreeing with the love for sushi. We always so Steve,
to answer that question, definitely. But I have to admit that I get into the fusion rolls. Like I'm not a purist.
Okay, that's all right. That's all good. Steve here is a big fan. I talk to Steve about sushi probably almost daily. So Steve is very excited that you just answered that question. Oh yeah. So actually, Greg here, Bearded, he also did mention sushi within his answer that he gave. So it's kind of it's funny that you guys are like, I don't know if you watched his episode and now you're just answering this. No, I'm just kidding. But
I did not.
I love Greg said that everybody needs a sushi friend, which I totally agree and love the concept of. If you guys don't have a sushi friend, someone that you can, not only eat sushi with together, but talk about it, even if it's not in front of you, it's always good to have a friend like that in your life. So
absolutely. I make my own sushi too.
You do? Oh my gosh.
At
That's awesome.
Market, they have this incredible fish stand. And so I get like hamachi from there. I get my salmon from there. I roll it myself at home.
Damn.
Is a trip.
Yeah,
I want you to make me feel like Palm Springs did.
Greg says it's an underrated movie. Yeah.
What was that your movie too, Greg?
Underrated? No. he did say something. He said this was back for when you said New Zealand. He said as long as we get to visit Hobbiton.
Of course.
That was,
of course. And like the little the hobbit feet that they have like in the shape of hobbit feet. They're totally disgusting. Let's do
it. Mark says Germany for the beer fest. He'd like to travel to Germany. That would be cool. Gore Vidal says, I think Neil Gaiman lives in New Zealand. There you go.
Does he?
That would be awesome.
it's so weird how many times that man has popped up in my life.
Yeah.
I have to meet him at some point.
Yeah.
I want his career, basically. Everything that he has done and accomplished, I want to be the female Neil Gaiman.
I love it.
So
he
he's
is
finds his way into my orbit, because if I find him, then it'll just be stalking.
No, he is incredible. And I feel like I see, like, he definitely comes up in my feeds and everything all the time. I feel like obviously he's done so much great work as well. So yeah, shout out to Neil Gaiman. That would be cool to run into him while you're on your vacation out in New Zealand, if in fact that's where he lives.
Hopefully not while vomiting after.
I was just gonna say
would suck.
It'd be a little awkward, just a little awkward, as you're trying to shake his hand or say hello.
Holding my hair.
Yeah.
No, it'll be much better than that.
Yeah, right. Real Rude 6 says, I don't have a sushi friend. My friend, dude, we can be your sushi friend. We can be your sushi friend.
Absolutely.
Fuzzy saying 39 years old and never had sushi. I just don't get it. Wow.
You should find out what it's all about.
Yeah, just try it, man. Just give it a go. I don't know how the sushi will be in Scotland, but I imagine it's good. Yeah, you can't go wrong with it.
Oh, Scotland. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That is interesting. Steve here said, amazing interview, guys. This was a real treat. I really appreciate that, Steve. Something else says, someone say sushi? Yes. Ryan here, Magic Lasso says, I watched the Sex and the City movies with Samantha. Sushi where she said no one should ever put it. Oh god,
I remember that episode. Didn't the guy like not show up and she just like laid there with sushi for a really long time? Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Awkward, very awkward.
Also, the way I want to meet Neil Gaiman.
Fuzzy says, cold, wet, it just doesn't appeal to me. I was talking to something wrong who said just do it. Steve said, let Neil be your spirit animal. There you go. He said it'll change your life. There you go.
All right, done deal.
So very cool. Well, Olivia, those are the questions that I have for you. This was awesome. You are awesome. I'm so glad that we were able to do this. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for the time. If you guys are not reading this book right here, Silver City, please go out and pick up a copy. Read it as soon as possible, because the second issue is coming out very soon, June 16th, right? We mentioned. All the information for Olivia is in the description below, so you can. Well, actually, I want to give you a little platform. So, Olivia, let the people know where they can find you, and if you have anything else upcoming, maybe any other interviews or anything like that you want to mention before we wrap up here.
Sure. You can find me on the socials at Olivia C. Briggs. That's on both Instagram and Twitter. Try to make it easy. And like I mentioned before, unfortunately, all the things that are coming up for me are not things I can actually talk about. Okay. Contracts haven't been signed, but like Justin and I were saying, I will be back, and hopefully by then I'll be able to talk in more detail about all the cool things that are happening. But in the meantime, like I mentioned before, I am a monthly subscription box for aspiring and working dramatic writers. So if any of you out there are screenwriters or television writers, comic book writers, narrative podcast writers, and you're, curious about how to get going, or you have gotten going and need more inspiration and to know more about the business of dramatic writing, that's what it's for. And even if you just want to reach out on the socials and let me know some things that you would like in a box, we're in the midst of designing it right now. That would be incredibly helpful. So that's the Storier box, and we're at storierbox.com. That's STORRIOR. For Storytelling Warriors.
I just dropped it in the chat right there. There it is. Yes. Yeah, guys, check it out. Yeah.
And so that's it for me at the moment. But like I said, I will be back when I can tell you more about all the fun stuff I'm doing with Oni and more stuff with Aftershock, and so it'll all be happening.
Very cool. Very cool. And there's the link again, guys. Make sure I put it in the description below, or I put it in the chat. I will add it to the description after this show is over, if anyone's catching the replay. Yes, we have 26 people still hanging out with us. Appreciate all of you who are hanging out with us right now.
And thank you, Jason. This was really, really fun. And all of the other interviews that I did for Silver City, they're out there in the ether already. They're great podcasts that I did. That's listen only is Bitches on Comics. And that was it was a great interview, and I love those bitches. So you should listen to that podcast if you're into comics.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, Olivia, thank you so much. We will certainly have a part 2 at some point. We are very excited. I'm very excited about this book. So love what you're doing. I mean, if you ever go back and watch any of my videos, you will see I talk very highly of this book. That's how much I'm really enjoying the concept of this thing. And like I said, it really made me think on a lot of different levels as I was reading it. So I am so pumped that you are on my channel right now. It's just so cool. So again, thank you so much.
Thank
yes,
you.
Absolutely. And everybody here, make sure that you are following Olivia. As I just mentioned, information's in the description below. Hit that thumbs up on the way out. That does help the channel. Appreciate all you guys here that are hanging with us. Or if you're watching the replay right now, you watching the replay, thank you so much for taking that time. And make sure you subscribe. Until next time, I'll have to line up something where I'll have another Creator Origins show. So, stay tuned for that. But until next time, we will talk to you guys later.